What if Palpatine was a Jedi trained by Dooku? That is our story for today. I really enjoyed writing this one, so I hope you did as well. It was just a fun, refreshing take on, the evil Palpatine that's in most videos, so I hope you guys enjoy this one. And let's get right into it. Our story begins on Naboo, as Jedi Master Dooku is on a mission to resolve a hostage crisis. This is Dooku's first mission as a Jedi Master, as Qui-Gon was recently promoted to Jedi Knight. And on Naboo, Cosina Palpatine, father of 5 children, is holding the Queen of Naboo hostage. Cosina was caught wiring funds for the people to his own bank account to pay off debts, and upon being caught, he took the Queen prisoner. Dooku landed outside of the Palpatine residence, and he made his way inside. Now it was just him and the Palpatine father, as he held a blaster to the Queen's head. Dooku tried to calm him down, saying that this is a huge mistake. But as he talked, Dooku could see that this was going nowhere. The Palpatine father was smart enough to know that he wasn't getting out of this without severe jail time or execution. So he yelled out that the Jedi and the Republic are corrupt systems. He was only looking out for his family, and he reached for the trigger. Dooku was about to use a force push, but he heard the sound of a blaster. But it didn't come from the father. Instead, the father fell dead, and behind him stood a 10-year-old boy. The youngest of all the children, Sheev Palpatine, snuck back into the home and killed his father before he could kill the Queen. Naboo security ran in, along with the Palpatine mother, and they tried to take the young Sheev away for questioning, as this was still technically murder. But Dooku told them to stop. He could feel the force surrounding Palpatine. It was intense and dark, perhaps uncontrollable. But Dooku told everyone that the boy would be coming with him, as he would be trained to be a Jedi. Sometime later, the Jedi Council was in session, as Dooku delivered the Naboo report, showed the council the young Sheev Palpatine, saying that he would be his new Padawan. Yoda was not a fan of this. He was too old. But Dooku said that he would either train Sheev as a Jedi, or leave the Order to train him. It would take some convincing, but Dooku said that if the Jedi don't train him, someone else will. Yoda admired his former student's stubbornness to do this, and so it was allowed. Sheev Palpatine would be the Padawan of Dooku. And Dooku would take on this challenge head-on. Palpatine was extremely powerful in the Force, but it was a power that had to be harnessed, recognized, and contained, or it could be used for great darkness. Dooku silently wondered if Palpatine was the prophesied chosen one, and he would train Palpatine to the best of his abilities. The first few years were heavily focused on allowing Palpatine to recognize his emotions, use them for good. His internal anger, sadness, and hate would be turned on itself, and Palpatine would learn to let go of these feelings, and instead find peace within himself. It wasn't easy, but Dooku was the best teacher for this. The darkness often called the Palpatine, but Dooku was no stranger to it either. He would teach Palpatine to choose the light because it is the light, but it was not a perfect practice. Palpatine proved to be an excellent student, absorbing Dooku's teachings with a true hunger for knowledge. But beneath his outward dedication to the Jedi path, Palpatine sometimes harbored secret ambitions, desires, a thirst for power that would often whisper to him in the quiet moments of meditation. It was like a snake deep inside of him, waiting to emerge. And as the years passed, the bond between master and apprentice would grow stronger, tempered by countless hours of training and meditation. Dooku was the best teacher for calming these dark temptations, but on some days, the young apprentice would remain torn between the teachings of the Jedi and the whispers of the dark side. In moments of weakness, Palpatine found himself drawn to the forbidden knowledge, delving into ancient texts and lore that spoke of the Sith. But there was enough to keep Palpatine interested, and though he hid these activities from his master, Dooku would sense this in the Force. It was a shadow that seemed to linger around his apprentice. The two of them would go on many missions together though, and Dooku would have Palpatine learn lightsaber form 7. Palpatine would master this form, Vapad, allowing him to channel his darkness into fighting, making him an elite duelist at just 18 years old. Not quite as good as Dooku, of course, but still elite, especially for his age. And at 18 years old, Palpatine would be sent on his first mission alone. He was sent to Cato Nemoidia, where he was to protect a Nemoidian senator and a banking clan advisor from dangerous protesters around the area. Palpatine traveled there and soon met with the senator and the banking clan advisor. The advisor was a Mun, and he told Palpatine that it was always nice to meet a Jedi, then said that his name was Higo Damask. The beginning of the meeting had no issues at all. but as it continued, a small rumbling could be felt. And moments later, a bomb blew up by a window, sending debris all around the area. Palpatine ordered the Senator and Damask to get down, then ignited his two blades, one of them purple and the other yellow. Palpatine noticed that Damask was watching him closely, and moments later, around 10 fighters ran in, firing at the Senator. Palpatine blocked all the shots, then pushed half of them into the wall. One shot actually hit Palpatine in the shoulder, and this angered him. He threw his purple lightsaber through the air, killing 2 more, then spun at the final 3, cutting down 2 of them, then grabbing one with the Force. Hago Damask watched as Palpatine lifted up one of these fighters with the Force, choking away his life. These fighters sought to just kill the Senator, sought to take down the Republic, but they would not. But Palpatine dropped him at the final second. Damask smiled to himself in the corner. This was very interesting, and Palpatine was looking down at his hand. These were simply just protesters. He couldn't believe what he nearly did. But he escorted Damask and the Senator away, and into a hidden bunker. On Coruscant, Dooku entered Yoda's quarters, and Yoda said that he could feel a disturbance in the Force. Young Palpatine, on his first mission alone, gave in to the darkness. Dooku said that he could feel it too. He thought Palpatine was ready for a mission alone, but he was wrong. Yoda shook his head, telling Dooku that he has taught the boy well, perhaps as well as he could have, but perhaps he must be assigned to stay in the temple until he is absolutely rid of the darkness that burns inside of him. And on Cato Nemoidia, Damask would shake Palpatine's hand, thanking him for saving his life, and Palpatine would leave the planet. As he did, Damask sunk into his true identity, Darth Plagueis, and imagined a future where Palpatine was his apprentice. The boy was powerful as a Jedi. He could rule the galaxy, though, as a Sith. So Plagueis thought, in time, he would try to turn him. Plagueis was the one true Sith in the galaxy, currently in the shadows without a true apprentice. His master was dead, and he didn't want an apprentice unless the perfect one showed up. Perhaps that would be Palpatine in time. If not, it would not matter. His plans to bring down the Jedi and the Republic could be done alone. And back on Coruscant, as Palpatine entered the temple after this mission, he was sat down by Yoda and Dooku, and the young Palpatine would confess everything he did, killing the protesters, and he would be assigned to archive duty for the time being. Palpatine knew that he could be mad at the Jedi for this, but he was wrong to act the way he did. Sure, the protesters were trying to kill the Senator, but he should have handled them, arrested them, not killed them. So, instead Palpatine would decide to embrace this new opportunity and truly explore the archives, learning everything he could, mastering the Force. And the next roughly 5 years would be spent by Palpatine almost exclusively in the temple, working on meditation, his own studies and training. And during this time, Palpatine's relationship with Grandmaster Yoda would grow to a new level. Yoda always kept close attention to Palpatine, but now he made it a personal mission to spend more time with him, as Palpatine was one of the most interesting students of Yoda's entire long life. Another year would be spent here until Palpatine was deemed ready to begin going on missions again, and the first one was simple. The Queen of Naboo needed a Jedi protector from Coruscant back to her home world. There was no real danger, but the Jedi thought this would be a good way to get Palpatine back out into the galaxy. So Palpatine would leave the temple, thanking the Jedi that he spent lots of time with that helped him grow, including Yoda, Dooku, and Qui-Gon. And on Naboo, after escorting the Queen home with no danger, Palpatine was met with a familiar face, Hago Damask. Secretly, Darth Plagueis ran into Palpatine and said what a coincidence this was. Damask asked Palpatine to sit with him for a quick lunch so they can discuss the Jedi Order and so he can try and repay Palpatine for saving his life. Palpatine had time before his flight back to Coruscant, and so he sat with Damask. And over these couple hours, Damask would begin to expose to Palpatine how the Republic was truly working. He would tell the young boy that he worries for the future of the Republic, as it is not what it once was. Corruption in the Senate leads to so many worlds being left in severe poverty, while the senators thrive in their riches in Coruscant. Damask would tell Palpatine that he wishes that the Jedi could do more, but he fears that they've simply fallen in line to be lapdogs of the Senate. Palpatine strongly considered all of this, as he hadn't really thought of it that much. Being stuck in the temple kept this reality hidden from him, and he had a desire to change things, to make them better, and in the end, he would thank Damask. Damask said that Palpatine can always come to him with anything. Perhaps together, they can work someday to make a better system. And so, upon returning to Coruscant, Palpatine would speak to his master Dooku about all of this, asking if it was true about the Jedi and the Republic. Is the corruption truly infecting planets to the point of near destruction? Dooku remembered many missions with Qui-Gon, where he saw poor planets ripped apart by greedy politicians, and so he told Palpatine the truth. The Republic very well could be a failing system. Palpatine said they need to do something about this. There has to be a way to save the Republic before it is too late. Dooku honestly thought about it a lot. He'd considered leaving the Order, maybe trying to do more from Sereno, but he just didn't know which path to take, especially while training Palpatine. But today, Palpatine suggested something he hadn't really considered. What if the Jedi take a seat in the Senate? It had been done before, and it would allow the Jedi to have more influence over senators. With a small smile, Palpatine said that perhaps the evil senators would even fear the Jedi. Dooku didn't like how political the Jedi had become. They were too obedient to the Senate. But Palpatine could be right. If the Jedi could secure a Senate seat, they could make real change instead of just blindly following the Senate. They could participate in it, change things, make things better. So over the next year, Dooku would take a seat on the council solely to be the lead in pushing for this new movement. And although it would take a year of convincing the Senate and the Jedi Council, the Jedi would soon have a seat among the galactic senators. And the first senators would be Dooku and Palpatine, who was now a Jedi Knight. Palpatine had the opportunity to take an apprentice, but now at 35 years old, he opted to focus on eradicating corruption from inside the Senate with Dooku. Perhaps the greatest traits for both Dooku and Palpatine in the Senate was their charm and their charisma. They were great at playing politics and influencing others to come to their side, and Palpatine's younger presence gave hope to all of the hopeless senators. Their first huge act in the Senate would be calling for a supervised election every 2 years for every single planet. The elections would be on different days for each system, allowing for each election to be monitored for corruption, and both Dooku and Palpatine would work together, growing their relationship in the Senate for 6 more years, helping oversee new elections, restore planets to having rulers who truly cared about the people. The greediest of the politicians would absolutely hate the influence of Dooku and Palpatine in the Senate, and thus they would turn to the banking clan to provide a solution and get rid of this Jedi influence. The banking clan, led by Hago Damask, aka Darth Plagueis, would begin formulating a plan. Over the years, since Palpatine became a Jedi Senator, Plagueis had continued to grow his relationship with him, but he could see that Palpatine was trending more towards the light side rather than sinking into the dark as he would have hoped. Perhaps this would change in time, but for now, Palpatine was out of his plans. Instead, as Chancellor Kaj stepped down, Hago Damask would approach Finis Valorum, who was one of the candidates to run for Chancellor now. Damask would fund Valorum's campaign, and after a few months, Valorum would win the election. Upon his victory, Plagueis would spend the next few nights using Sith alchemy to create nightmares in Valorum's head. He would make Valorum see war, the Jedi Temple on fire, senators in great fear and despair, and the Republic falling apart. Valorum would awaken in fear, worrying that this was because of him. And after these nightmares, Plagueis would approach Valorum, asking to be co-chancellor, saying that he fears the Republic will burn, but he wants to help. Valorum could use the banking clan on his side. And in his fear, Valorum would accept, and so Plagueis would become co-chancellor. Of course, this would last only about a month, as co-chancellor Valorum would die in a ship explosion while landing on Balmorra for a regular meeting. Bounty hunters shot his ship down, hired by Plagueis, but it was reported that his ship exploded from pirates looking for money, and in his place, Plagueis would become the only chancellor. This would be shocking for the Republic, but Plagueis would use this tragedy to convince the Republic that they must become stronger. And as his first act as chancellor, Plagueis asked the Republic to vote for a droid army to be built using the funds from the banking clan. In the fear from Valorum's death and the want for revenge, the Galactic Senate would begin to vote in a majority to create this Republic droid army, and so production would begin off-world, or so they thought. But not every senator supported this. Inside the Jedi Council, both of the Jedi senators, Dooku and Palpatine, would speak to the council about this new droid army. The Jedi were extremely concerned with this new chancellor. He said he was building this army for the security of the Republic. But wasn't that what the Jedi were for? Master Mundi spoke up, saying that he senses a plot to undermine the Jedi. This new chancellor is moving way too fast. And so, the council collectively asked Palpatine to spy on Chancellor Damask, find out what he is up to, report back to the temple. Palpatine didn't love this. He had known Damask for years, and he always treated Palpatine so well. But he did accept this assignment, as the droid army was rather strange, and he wanted to talk to Damask about all of it, on assignment for the Jedi. So for around a year, Palpatine would use his position and friendliness to get even closer than ever before to Damask. And Damask, aka Plagueis, would see this as Palpatine veering back towards the dark side, questioning the Republic, the Jedi, and looking for a new path in his galaxy. So after this year of spying, Palpatine would be invited to a special briefing that Damask told him was only for those he trusted most. Palpatine would inform the council of this invite, and he would then join Damask on his personal shuttle as the two of them began flying out towards the industrial sector. Palpatine had never really been out here, and soon the two of them would fly to the ground, entering a small, hidden hangar in the ground. Inside of the hangar, things were extremely well built, and Palpatine was almost overwhelmed by the sounds of machines creating machines all around him. Somehow, underneath Coruscant's industrial sector, Damask had been building his droid army without anyone knowing. He used his massive banking funds and his corrupt Senate friends to get this project done, and soon he sat at a desk across from Palpatine, and Damask began talking to Palpatine, saying that since the day he saw him attack the Cato Nemoidia protesters, he knew this day would come. Palpatine asked what was going on, why were they here, where did all of these droids come from? This was a fully built factory. There were so many droids ready to go fight right now, but Plagueis held up a hand to silence him, and then said that it is time for a new era. He said that by his estimation, the Republic has roughly 15 years before it eats itself alive, and civil war causes it to fall. And so he continued, telling Palpatine that he wants to prevent this from happening. If the Republic falls, countless people die, but under his leadership, their leadership, a new order can rise, a new empire. Palpatine felt a chill run down his spine as he realized that this man, Hago Damask, the man that raised Palpatine through politics, has been playing a long game to take everything under his control. But Palpatine stayed silent, allowing Damask to continue unraveling his plan. Plagueis said that today will mark the end of this new era. The Republic will die. His droid army will storm the capital city, catch the Jedi Temple and Senate building by surprise. An emergency Senate meeting has been called. Everyone will be there. The droids will storm in, kill every single last one of them, and in that power vacuum, the Sith will step in. Now Palpatine finally had the truth. Damask was a Sith, Darth Plagueis, and Plagueis would reach out his hand, telling Palpatine that it is his destiny to join him. He has seen the corruption of the Republic, he knows it is unfixable, and the Jedi participate in it every day. It is a lost system that they can repair. Together, Plagueis said. With the Jedi and the Senate gone, the droid army will wipe them out, and they will take direct control of the Republic. They will ensure peace. But as Palpatine looked down at Plagueis' hand, he could see the future, and it was not a future of peace. No, instead it was an empire, born of pain, death, suffering, in the fist of the Sith. And Palpatine remembered everything he'd worked for, fought for in the Senate, and with his lightsabers, he was a Jedi. He killed the dark shadow that once lived inside of him, and now he would kill the Sith. So he looked up with a calm vindication in his eyes, up to Plagueis, then reached for his sabers. Plagueis saw this, screamed, "No!" and blasted lightning at Palpatine, which he caught with his two sabers. Palpatine flipped towards Plagueis, and the Sith ignited his red blade. He took a chance on Palpatine, and he was wrong. Now he must correct his mistake before he wipes out the Republic, rebuilds it from the ground up with him as the only leader. And now the two of them were circling each other, years of a relationship ripped apart to hatred in the blink of an eye. And with a sudden move, they clashed sabers, Palpatine's purple and yellow blades meeting Plagueis' red blade as they cut through the main room and out into the factory. The Their duel was a true meeting of light and dark. This was the first Sith in so long, and Palpatine knew that he must kill Plagueis, or everything would be lost. Palpatine's strikes were extremely powerful, and he sunk into Fapad, his every move calculated to reflect the darkness back at Plagueis. But Plagueis was strong. His whole life led to this moment. His mastery of the dark side was evident in every single blow. Sparks flew as their sabers clashed again and again, blending with the sparks of the factory, the two of them moving into the droid factory, the heat, the sounds nearly overwhelming them, as the echoes of their battle reverberated through it all. Both Palpatine and Plagueis were on a floating platform now, fighting above a pit of fire, disintegrating unnecessary droid parts. Palpatine could feel the power of the Force coursing through him, guiding his every move. But no matter how powerful he was, Plagueis countered every move. And Palpatine had an idea. He left himself open, and Plagueis shot lightning at him, but Palpatine caught it with his sabers, then perfectly deflected away into one of the energy generators, keeping his factory going. The generator shook, and Plagueis yelled in rage, leaping towards Palpatine. It was damaged, and Palpatine just had to get to it. So as the duel raged on, the factory began to tremble around them. Palpatine kicked Plagueis away, then used the Force, throwing one of his sabers into the damaged generator. This created even more damage to it, and fire erupted as a chain reaction of explosions would begin. Plagueis charged back into battle, but was slammed into a wall by an explosion, and as he was getting up, Palpatine cut through the platform, and Plagueis fell with the platform, down into the pit of fire, now being consumed by the explosion. His screams would mix with the sounds of explosions, and Palpatine watched him die, then ran through the factory. He got back into the main office room, plugging a data chip into the hard drive to download all of the information on how this factory was built. Then he ran to the hangar, stumbling into walls, barely making it to Plagueis' ship. He was able to take off as the entire half-mile-long area began to shake and explode. Then the ground caved in on itself, leaving only the memory of the factory that Plagueis had built. Around a week later, the Republic as a whole would begin its rebuilding stages after learning the truth about Chancellor Damask. He was a Sith Lord, and thanks to the Jedi Palpatine grabbing the information from the factory, the Republic would find 40 senators that helped fund and build this factory, hidden away under the industrial sector. These senators were quickly arrested, along with anyone else who participated, and another new election would begin. But things would be very different this time, as Dooku would leave the Jedi Order and become the full-time Chancellor. As for the Jedi, they were much more open to the idea of the Sith returning now, and they began to spread their influence back into the Outer Rim, trying to find more Jedi to bring into the Order to usher in the new, refreshing era of Jedi. One of the found Jedi would be a young boy from Tatooine, Anakin Skywalker, and when the time came for his training, Palpatine would finally take on his first apprentice, as he could feel Anakin's darkness, so he would choose to train Anakin the way that Dooku once trained him. And folks, that is our story for today. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I thought a lot about this path, Palpatine as a Jedi. It's not too unrealistic, because really if the Jedi would have found him, they would have been able to try to take the darkness away from him. And I really wanted to reflect the story of Anakin and Palpatine, kind of mirror it to Palpatine and Plagueis, with Plagueis kind of trying to be the one to turn Palpatine to the dark over years of manipulation, showing him the Republic's, corruption, but ultimately change the story up with Palpatine actually staying in the light, not wanting to participate in this huge battle. I could have used the clone army, but I decided to opt against it, and just, without Palpatine, Plagueis' plans are altered in many different ways, and he ultimately has to speed up his process, as Palpatine is a very influential senator, helping eradicate corruption, so Plagueis ultimately chooses a Republic droid army after Valorum dies, and plans to just wipe everyone out. Spoilers now for The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live. So if you are watching that show and don't want to be spoiled, stop listening now. But I wanted to really reflect the final scene with Rick and I think Woodbury in the final episode of that, where Woodbury tries to recruit Rick to basically join him and take out the entire area, but Rick actually goes at him. Anyways, that was what I was going for with the scene where Plagueis tries to recruit Palpatine. If you guys are Walking Dead fans, hope you guys got that reference a little bit. Anyways, thanks for watching. Appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next. video.